start that again. Welcome, everyone. Good to be with you all again. And for those who are joining for the first time or joining us on the recording, a very, very warm welcome to you, to the Sangha Live community. We're here with the theme of living in sacredness today, covered over 5 morning meditation sessions. And we run morning meditation every day of the week, except for August, with a range of different teachers. So feel free to drop in at any time. We have, where the session runs the same every time, we have about 10 to 15 minutes of Dharma talk by our teacher on the theme. And then we have a nice extended about 30 minutes of practice together. And then there's time for questions, answers, sharing, inquiry, a precious time really to sort of process and integrate whatever is coming up in your practice. So if you would like to dialogue with Ayala today or just share what's coming up, you can either come on screen. There's a raise your hand icon there if you're live with us, of course, and I can bring you on screen. But don't take too long because we only have 15 minutes. So if you want to come on screen, you feel the urge, then just raise your hand as soon as Ayala ends the practice and invites questions. Raise your hand and I'll bring you on screen. And if you prefer to just stay a little bit more with yourself, with your own space today, then you can write the question in the chat. Please write question in caps at the beginning of your text so we can see it, because there's a lot of scrolling text in the chat, and it can be difficult for the teacher to differentiate what's chat and what's question. I've been getting a few questions about where the recording is located. So if you are here and you have to leave, or just in general for future reference, the recordings are uploaded pretty much about 15 or 10 minutes after the session ends. And you find them in the daily meditation space in Sangha Live Connect. So in this platform that you're in now, if you know that there's a little space, daily meditations with the Apple icon. If you're in there and you click on past, there's screenings, current and past. If you click on the past, you're going to find all the screenings from the last days, and the recordings are right there. And then in the Dharma library on the Sangha Live website, they are uploaded by the end of the day. So it's pretty much, the rule is pretty much, if it's if it's on the day of the practice and you want to catch up, then come and find it in Sangha Live Connect. And after that, you can find it all in the Dharma library. Right. And a small reminder that these sessions are all run on donation basis, on Dana. This is a practice that's been practiced for about 3,000 years now, a way of passing on the wisdom of the Buddha. The community, the Sangha, the global Sangha, supports the continuous production and dissemination of these teachings by teachers and by our platform, Sangha Live, with financial contributions, with Dana. So if you would like to donate today, you will be supporting Sangha Live to do this work, because we don't have many fees for services, and you will also be supporting Ayala in her precious work as a teacher, as spreading the Dharma. So we are very appreciative for anything that you can give, and if you can't, you're also very welcome still to be here. If you would like to give today, the address is sangha.live/donate. All right. Wishing you a wonderful practice and see you tomorrow. You're on mute for me, Ayala. You might have to refresh yours. I don't know.
That's what's going on. Good morning. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's always such a pleasure to see this community and to feel this community. It's been a real, it's been something very beautiful for me, coming into this seat with you for the first time this week to sense the vitality of your connection and our connection together. So as we've been doing each morning, let's begin just with a few moments connecting into that connection as the visceral, felt, embodied sense of each one of us, wherever we are in space right now around the world. Many countries in Europe, so Australia, South Africa. And some of you I know coming in from the US by the recording. And so that also that sense of connecting beyond time. And even if you're joining us through the recording, you're still dropping into the same field which we share together beyond time and space. And so just feeling the appreciation that's here for each one of us, for Sangha Live, for the possibility of coming together in this way. And as we continue our exploration of living in sacredness, today's theme is emotions are sacred. We've been exploring each day, the body is sacred, the mind is sacred, that sense of mind being so much more than simply the cognitive thinking capacity and the luminous intelligence of the whole body, the luminous intelligence of the world around us. When we come to emotions, it can be interesting because I know many people in general and many people as practitioners have a sense of there being the right emotions and the wrong emotions. There's often a languaging around negative emotions, particularly in certain traditions. So again, I'm going to be speaking and guiding you in a practice that leans us towards a different reality where everything is sacred. There's only the possibility of our distorted relationships towards anything, which in the distortion there's some expression of violence, whether that's inner violence towards ourselves or an outer violence somewhere in the world. So there's an intrinsic sacredness when we are in remembrance, when we are in alignment, in the flow of the unfolding of life, this mysterious, codependent emergence. When we're in that flow, when we are recognizing the preciousness, when we're recognizing that the responsibility, that everything matters, there's an alignment with sacredness that brings forward our own creative expressions of that sacredness. And when we're in a forgetfulness of this relationship, there's the possibility, as I said, for distorted relationships to come forward and distorted expressions to come forward. So I think I also mentioned that our distorted relationships to anything tend to fall somewhere in the spectrum between suppressing an experience and embellishing an experience. When we suppress, we will tend to either deny that it's here, we'll push it away and hold it in our body, or we will find behaviors that numb or distract us from it. And what I mean by embellishing an experience, the embellishments tends to be somewhere in the mind. So it tends to be some mechanism of going into the thought stream about, which tends to be the thinking about blame or shame or fixing or comparing or judging, or remembering and looping in the narratives of a story that recreate the experience. So we can probably recognize a tendency for us with all the most difficult emotions to fall into one or both of those categories at times. It's completely normal, it's completely understandable. There'll be a way in which certain emotions will probably have a stronger tendency towards suppressing, and then there might be a time that that suppression, the energy of that suppression builds up so much that there's a disproportionate expression, a violent expression of that emotion. There'll be certain emotions that we tend to, that we might not be aware that we are constantly recreating the story of that anger, for example, and therefore recreating the emotion in us. And so this is the irony, if you like, and it's also what creates suffering. Remember, every distorted relationship to an experience creates suffering. It creates an added layer of contraction and collapse in our system that I'm calling suffering. And we suffer when we either suppress or embellish emotions because we actually perpetuate the emotion. We perpetuate an emotion by suppressing it. We maintain it in the body, somatically in our system. It can sometimes become a kind of background ache that we might be aware of that doesn't really make sense. You know, I seem to live such a full and fulfilling life, but there's a background ache of anger, of grief, of anxiety, perhaps. And embellishing similarly actually replays, by replaying the story or by enacting in ways that create more tension and friction and karma in our lives. We replay, we recreate the emotion again and again and again. And so the teaching is in fact always the same with every experience. It's the invitation to unhook from the stories, to come into the body, and to find how the experience is alive in our body right now. We create these distorted relationships to experiences when, very often when in our early life, there's a sense that this is too much for us to bear. Whether that's because with a particular emotion it feels overwhelming, it's not safe enough to feel it at that time. Whether that's because we've been modeled that it's not, when we wouldn't be lovable to express a certain emotion, or whether it's been modeled the violence of reactively expressing, the distorted expression of embodying that emotion. So when we come to practice and we learn to unhook from those stories, to make space in the body, to meet it here in our body, there's a very beautiful quote from Ram Dass in one of his talks where he said, "When we look at something we can't bear, whatever couldn't bear it dies." Because here we are, meeting in an embodied way with curiosity and with care. Something that suddenly appears quite tender and vulnerable to us. So we'll come to sit together now, and when we sit, the practice is always the same. Fundamentally, we find our posture, we find our anchor, we unhook from the habitual places our attention goes to bring our attention to the anchor in the body. And so we'll be practicing in that way as always, but with the added gentle questions dropped in like a pebble dropping into a well. And one of those questions is, how are you feeling, my love? With that attitude of such kindness, as you would say to a beloved child, someone you really love, a pet even. How are you feeling, my love? And not looking for the answer in the mind, but asking the body, asking the belly, the diaphragm, the chest, the throat. And sometimes we might not know the word of what we're feeling, but we might feel it, something, this sense of tension in the body, and we inquire into that. What is it? What is it that's here? Sometimes it's the other way around. We will know that we're feeling angry, for example. And so the inquiry is, how does this feel in the body? And that's where we come, and that's where we stay, to the places in the body where there's some sense of contraction and collapse, while staying with the anchor, with our breathing, with the sensations. And if we do come close in this way to meeting some part of ourselves, the next question that can sometimes come again, just like a pebble dropped into the well, and we listen, we watch, we feel for the ripples. The next question might be, what do you need from me right now, my love? So we're showing up for ourselves in a way that perhaps these young parts of us weren't received at many times in our lives in the past. Nice. So, finding your seat. And establishing your posture. Bringing first the sense of ease, releasing the jaw, the tongue, and the lips. Taking a slow, soft breath in through the nose and out through the mouth with a sigh or a sound. Noticing what you can let go of in your body. And then taking some exhales, slightly lengthening the end of the exhalation and taking your attention down to the lower body. Into the lower belly, into the pelvis, into the legs. Feeling the sensations of contact between your body and the ground. Feeling easy even as you continue to release the jaw and the shoulders and the belly, even as you continue to draw your attention down to the ground. Feeling the fullness at the same time as of the inhalation as it opens and lengthens. Feeling your presence here, awake and alive. Feeling your breathing move through your body and letting yourself move if that feels called for in you, in any way that allows the breathing to release areas that are stuck or just dull. Whether that's shaking or stretching. So that as you come to stillness, you begin to feel the body alive. Alive in its luminous intelligence. Feel the breathing alive as you receive the inhalation. And give your own out-breath back. And beginning to anchor your attention here as you unhook. Each time you notice your attention has returned to familiar patterns and thoughts. Unhook and anchor with such tenderness, with great interest, in the sensations of this breathing body. Each time you unhook from thinking, notice if there are parts of the muscles of your face that can relax as you return your attention to the sensations of breathing. receiving the breath. As a beloved, as your dearest ally, your friend. And as your attention begins to settle here in the body, and as your body begins to settle, allow yourself, invite yourself to feel more of your body, particularly these tender, vulnerable areas of the throat and the heart, the diaphragm, solar plexus, and the belly. Like dropping a pebble into a well. Just dropping in with such kindness this question: how are you feeling, my love? Letting the answer come through and with and from the body. How are you feeling, my love? And if there's an emotion that's very clear to the mind, if the response comes as a name of an emotion or a sense and knowing that this is how I'm feeling, then find the expression of that feeling in your body. How does joy show up in the body? How does grief show up in the body? Anger or fear or anxiety? And it might be that you're not quite sure what it is that you're feeling, but you just sense areas of tension, areas of tenderness. And again, simply stay with your attention, resting tenderly, lovingly, with curiosity, with care. Very close to these parts of your body. With the whisper, it's okay to feel this way. It's okay to feel this way. It's safe right now to feel this way. Continuing to relax the face, the shoulders, the belly. Breathing into the areas of either fullness or vulnerability, the emotional centers of your body. And remaining close, absolute commitment to non-abandonment this time. For some of you, the anchor of your attention might remain the sensations of breathing. And it could be that you continue to drop in the question, how are you feeling, my love? And for others of you, the feeling itself will be forefront, and the sensations in your body of that emotion right now becomes the anchor and the center of your loving presence. It's okay to feel this way. I'm here. Re-establishing your posture. If you find that you're beginning to collapse, so that there's space for whatever it is you're feeling right now. There's ground for whatever it is you're feeling right now. It's okay to feel this way. Unhooking again and again from the narratives that an emotion might be more familiar with creating, the storylines. Unhook and return with such gentleness to the sensations of the feeling in your body itself. Right now, just being here is enough. It is in the just being here, resting beside our emotional unfolding, that its sacredness reveals itself. That we experience the sweetness of the flavors of love emerging in response to attending with such gentleness, such kindness, with whatever is arising in our emotional life. holding space for the energy of the particular emotions you're feeling in this moment to move through you. Emotions like anger have a lot of energy. Let that energy move through your body. If what you're feeling right now, when you ask yourself the question, how are you feeling, my love? If what you're feeling is a sense of numbness, of disconnect, then that's a feeling too. Inquire into that. How does it feel in my body? This numbness, this disconnect. Staying close. It's okay to feel this way. Feeling your breathing as it moves through your body. Feeling your body grounded, alert and open. And the sense of space inside your body to host, to honor, to really validate whatever it is you're feeling. There's room for this. And let that be reinforced by the sense of space around you as well. Both the stability and spaciousness of the ground beneath you. It's okay to feel this way. And so as you reflect on any questions or reflections that you might want to share, I'd like to add, so feel free to write any questions in the chat or raise your hand. And I'd like to add, as you're reflecting, a few words about response. Because we can sometimes think with the suggestion to unhook from the stories, especially when there's a strong emotion, to unhook from the stories and make room for the embodied presence of an emotion in our body. We can sometimes think that that's a suggestion to become passive in life. And that's not at all the case. It's not at all the case with any teachings of the Dharma. The invitation is to discover the power and passion and effectiveness of love's appropriate response, of sacred response, and to recognize the violence of reactive response, reaction. So it takes a lot of trust to begin with that hosting, particularly when there's been an emotion that we've suppressed for a long time, that hosting that emotion, that letting it be alive and lived and felt and received in the body is itself the healing, or is the beginning of the healing. So I will read a question from Clive. Wrote, beautiful teachings, thank you. And from some teachers on Sangha Live, Miles and Nathan, for example, I've learned to disaggregate or diffuse my mind to create space and reduce reactiveness, I believe. Yesterday, I think I heard you encouraging us not to separate observer from the observed. Two different approaches. Reducing. Yeah, it's hard for me to answer that without, receiving those teachings directly. Because as I said, it's there are so many things we can mean that can be meant by words, depending on our interpretation of them. And I will add that different things are needed at different times. There are different techniques that we can draw on when we're really caught in reactivity, when we're really caught in mental agitation and emotional reactivity. There are different approaches. It's not one thing. So if we come back to this exploration of emotions, for example, particularly with anger, which is an emotion which has a lot of heat and energy in it, it can be it can be too much to simply only unhook from the story, and which is often a story of blame or shame, and come into feeling the anger in the body, because it needs to move. So what can be really helpful with anger, if there's been a history of suppression or if it's just very charged, is to move it physically in the body, to literally in a way that doesn't bring harm to ourselves or others. So, punching a cushion, shouting, screaming even into a pillow, moving our body in any ways that, and our voice in any ways that bring that release. So I'm thinking that can speak perhaps in some way to that suggestion of disaggregating or diffusing. You were speaking about doing that with the mind, but there's also with the energy of the body to reduce reactivity. Regardless, the invitation I was speaking of both yesterday in relation to the sacredness of the mind and today in relation to the sacredness of the body, the invitation remains to come back into the body, to intimately receive the luminous intelligence of whatever is arising in this moment, and to let it speak to us. And so there's that piece that I didn't feel we had time to get to, which was sometimes when we really meet an emotion in our body and have landed with the mutual resting beside, and the sense of it's okay to feel this way. There can be that another question or reflection dropped in of, what is it you need from me right now? And the response is often very different. It'll be a young part of us that comes forward with, like, I need to feel that I'm okay, for example. Very different from the reactive narrative of the mind that says, I need to get that. I need to not get that. I need to not be here. Something much more tender when we really meet this moment. I need to be held. The non-abandonment. We're the only ones who can possibly meet ourselves, hold ourselves in the way that we long for so deeply. And inevitably, without a practice, we will look to be held, we'll look to feel safe outside of ourselves, either in the way we show up in the world and want to be seen in the world, or through the way we want others to see us and hold us in the world. But nobody can attune to us. Nobody can be that, hold that level of intimacy with us that we can, that our wisdom nature can, that our own luminous intelligence can. A question from N. So I can probably just take this question, and then other questions I will come back to tomorrow. I have this big anger I can't seem to pass. It's like PTSD from the anger at myself and not even the people or the events. It's clouding everything in meditations. I'm I'm not sure that word, aware of the tourniquets and compassion and of hard stuff, but this is too strong. Yeah. So anger is very typically one that becomes overwhelming and is becomes this background, either background flavor, as you said, regardless of what else is going on, often directed at ourselves, often then kind of explosively directing outwards, but we might know in that moment that it's disproportionate to what is arising. First of all, we need support. We really need support, especially when there's the strength of energy. We need to be witnessed. Another person, whether it's in a therapeutic container, whether it's in a mentoring dharmic container, to hold the mirror of our wisdom nature as we learn to hold that wisdom nature in ourselves. To hold the mirror for us of the one asking, how are you feeling right now, my love? It's okay to feel this way. What is it you need, my love? To hold the safety for us, to guide us as we learn to hold that space in ourselves. So reach for help. And as I said, there are ways with anger that anger wants to move. So we can become very afraid of feeling anger because either we've experienced in ourselves how violent it is in its expression when it's reactively expressed, or very likely we've experienced it in others towards us and towards others. And we've probably experienced our caregivers suppressing it or reactively expressing it. So when we do begin to, in our meditation, as you mentioned, there can be a sense of, I want to meditate so I feel good, so I don't feel this. And it can feel very incongruent when the suggestion is, having established an anchor, a center, having arrived in the body, having some stability, I then include some of this really uncomfortable feeling of anger, for example. It can, as I said, be something that we drop into enough. We begin to feel and host this energy, and then it might be that we need to move it. We need to, that our meditation won't be this contained container that we're more familiar with. We might need to shake, jump, shout, move for a bit, and then come back and see and recognize anger as this energy that's moving through us, that pulsates all the way to our fingers, and feel it in a different way, because it's a sacred energy. When we come into right relationship with anger, it's a sacred energy. It's fierce, for sure, but it comes up with a fierceness that asks us to respond appropriately to the violation that's arising, whether it's violation towards ourselves, towards the world, towards others. But first we need to come out of a distorted relationship into a sacred relationship. So to begin to feel its energy as it moves through us in sacredness. So I'm happy for you and to respond back either in the chat or tomorrow, or any of you, as I said, I've seen there are a few more questions and we can come back to them tomorrow. And also feel free to email me, ayalagill@gmail.com, with any further reflections or questions. So, and IFS, I love IFS, yes, Hilary. That I mentioned parts. We begin to work with these parts with so much support. I really, really have a lot of respect for that way of practicing. I found a lot of support from it myself. So we need to come to a close now. Let's just bring ourselves for a moment to stillness. You can close your eyes. Take a slow, deep breath. Breathe out with a sound, everybody, either sigh or a hoarse breath, or an ah. Make some kind of sound to make space for what's here. And feel the energy in your body. Feel our shared field of energy today. How are you feeling, my love? There's a question offered out to each and every one of us. It's okay to feel this way for everybody here in our Sangha, and then for everybody beyond, for all these young parts of us, each and every one of us. It's okay to feel this way. May you have a day where you remain close to yourself, where you remain close and non-abandonment to whatever comes up in you during the day. I hope we meet again tomorrow to explore the sacredness of love's response.